Today in Dubuque at Hempstead High School.
Yeah.
And so I figured kind of the best way to start to talk about public education.
Yes.
Which is something that you obviously talk about a lot in your campaign. But I'd like kind of just to start, just tell me about, I guess, how you'd like to approach education, I guess, differently from the current administration.
So it's not just different from the current administration. It's different from what we've done for decades now. And let me put it, if I can, in just a little bigger frame. I see the central problem in America today is that the country works better and better and better for a thinner and thinner slice at the top. It leaves more and more people behind, struggling, stretching. America's middle class is being hollowed out. And the fundamental question is, what can we do about that? What should be the role of government? My view is, instead of being on the side of the folks who've already made it big, we should be making an investment in an entire generation. So here's my plan for that. A 2-cent wealth tax on the top 0.1% of great fortunes in this country. And that produces enough money for universal child care for every baby in this country age 0 to 5, universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old, raising the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher in America, making an $800 billion investment from the federal government into our public schools, K through 12, and that includes fully funding IDEA, which means children with disabilities would, for the first time in history, have the funding available to make sure they get the education they need, making college tuition free, leveling the playing field by investing $50 billion into historically black colleges and universities, and canceling student loan debt for 43 million Americans. It's about our values. It's about how we think we build a future. Is it leaving those 2 cents with the greatest fortunes in this country, or saying pay a fair share and invest in an entire generation?
Funding it, and you say it's be through a variety of different means. But tell me about as far as taxing on the wealthy, and I guess balancing that between taxing the wealthy but not also negatively impacting the economy as well.
Oh, wow. So let me just see if I can do a frame around this that makes sense. It's possible, let me start again. My plan shows that we can provide Medicare for all for every person in this country without raising taxes on middle-class families by 1 cent. If we stay on our current path, don't make any changes to the healthcare system, American families will spend $11 trillion over the next 10 years in out-of-pocket costs on health insurance premiums, co-pays, deductibles, services that aren't covered, medications that aren't covered. That's the path that American families are on. By reducing that to 0, it would be the equivalent of the biggest tax break for American families in U.S. history. It would stimulate the economy by putting $11 trillion directly back into the pockets of families who spend it at restaurants and on cars and starting small businesses. It would also help small businesses in America who wouldn't have to compete with big businesses on whether or not they're going to offer health care, because it would be out there for everyone. And it would mean people could start their own businesses as well without worrying about health care. Just back to your question overall about the economic impact, just think of it this way. Right now, there are 4 sources for paying for health care in America. Federal government through Medicare and Medicaid, state governments through Medicaid, employers who, since the Affordable Care Act was passed in 2010, have been legally obligated to provide health insurance if they have more than 50 employees, and individuals. Under Medicare for All, the first three stay the same. Federal government continues to make the same contribution. The state governments make the same contribution, only they pay it directly to Medicaid. And the employers make the same contribution, only they pay it to Medicaid. Sorry, I said Medicaid, Medicare. The families, there's the difference. Instead of paying $11 trillion over the next 10 years, those families will still have that money in their pockets to spend however they want to spend it in the economy. And the question is, so how do you make up the $11 trillion? Where does the money come from to cover that? And the answer is it comes from things like cracking down on tax cheats. Turns out we could raise about $2 trillion doing that. Cracking down on tax havens internationally, where American companies hide their money. We can pull in some more revenue doing that. So it's basically about saying that big corporations and the top 1% need to make a bigger contribution so that we can help rebuild and strengthen America's middle class and make sure that people get access to their doctors and treatment without going broke.
Sure.